Hello, this is Janelle,
Hi.
the life coach, relationship coach behind The Successful Invisible. And I help and work with professional Black women who are 35 plus, look to date, partner, and marry if that's their thing, with more of self awareness and intentionality. So today I'm kicking off a new series, and I have a peer of mine that I met in a lovely business development course. Her name is Javonna MaeRhys, and she was kind enough to be my first interview for this series. So, Javonna, please introduce yourself and tell the people that will be watching anything you'd like them to know.
Okay, well, my name is Javonna MaeRhys, and I am a holistic life and career coach and also an international teacher. And in the context of this series, I found love recently, and I'm really excited to talk about how that has come about and how it's
Mhm.
working out right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for agreeing to this. So for future folks who listen to this, it is 6 a.m. where I'm at, and Giovanna is in a time zone very far away. Where are you at, Giovanna? Just to let everybody know where you're coming from.
Yeah, I am in Southeast Asia in a country called Brunei. It's on the island of Borneo, so it's near Malaysia, the Philippines, and my time zone is GMT plus 8, and so it is 7:06 p.m. where I'm at.
I'm loving it. I'm here for it. I'm dedicated to doing this. So we're gonna get through it. I have had my coffee, a little bit of coffee this morning, so we should we can start. So I definitely want to start. Let's just start from the beginning of where you're comfortable starting about, just talking about your online dating experience, what led you to it, and then kind of we'll just flow from there.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I was an early adapter in terms of dating online. Online dating used to have this taboo around it, but I have always, going back to the early 2000s, been online. I actually met my first husband online. And I think it's because I'm an introvert. And so it was always a task for me to meet people when you're a homebody. And so it was always natural for me whenever it was time to date to go online. And so through first marriage, divorce, having a child, all of that, I went through 2 years after my divorce, just taking some time for myself and just going to therapy and doing the kind of work to figure out my role and what happened versus what his role was and where I wanted to go moving forward. And so after 2 years, I got back online and found someone who I thought was going to be a serious contender. And then I just woke up one day and realized I don't think I like this person.
Okay. Okay.
Very nice person. He had kids. I have one son. And I think I realized that I was kind of falling into some old habits of looking for something that fit um, a particular storyline of what was going to be successful, the whole family unit and doing things as a family. We were great with that, like doing things with kids, going on trips, all of that. But then when it came to the two of us, it was just kind of, I don't know, milk toast, bland. And I thought one day the kids are going to be gone and I want to be with you. So so I had to, put on my big girl undies and have a tough conversation and have that whole it's not you, but it kind of is conversation. And so then after that, I was like, you know what? I went through a phase where I thought, let me just start my cat collection. And I'm just gonna start collecting cats, and it's just gonna be me and my cats, and we're gonna roll with
Mhm.
it. And then something inside of me said, okay, Giovanna, maybe let's not spin into like early spinsterhood just yet. Um, Although I did get two cats, so I was on my way. Um, but I decided to get on one more time, and this time to show up as me. Because I think in previous iterations of online dating, again, I was telling myself a story about what kind of people were attracted to me, what I was attracted to, what kind of how are you putting yourself out there, like the whole package, the story. And so there's a story, you've got like the right pictures, and you've got like the right things to say, but it's like the old Chris Rock joke where he talks about people meeting your representative,
Mm,
and you don't
yes.
really get to know the person
Yes.
until later on down the line. And so I said to myself, I keep getting bad results because I am pushing this representative hard. Like, this representative is getting all of the PR. And so what if I show up as myself this time? And so I got back on one more time, and my, profile was, "Hey, it's me. Weird. I got some cats. I
Okay.
like this is who I am." And I came across a profile that was appealing to me, and I reached out to that person, and we started a conversation, and then 2 years later, we're married.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, but you shared some huge things that I feel were part of your path to success. Number one, after your first marriage, you went to therapy. And I am a big
Mhm,
proponent of licensed mental health, professionals. I see a therapist once a week. Shout out Monique, because I'm going to send her this interview. So I appreciate working through your stuff, because that's going to help you close the last chapter and be more self-aware, be more intentional as you move forward. And like you said, figure out
mhm,
your part, his part, whatever the case may be.
mhm.
You were honest with you and had a safe space to do it with a trained professional. So big ups, kudos to you. And anyone watching, if you're considering it, please do it. Please start doing the
Yeah.
research, because you will never fail working on you. It's an
Oh,
investment that will always, net returns. Another thing you said, you were honest when the first relationship, when you got back into dating, you were like,
mhm,
you took an honest assessment of the situation, and you realized where you two were really good at, like the family thing, the blended families, the outing, the image, the whole thing. But then you're like, but on a personal level, when the kids are gone, I don't know if
right.
you're it. And I feel a lot of people are afraid to be that honest,
Mhm,
especially when they've built something and invested time in something. So huge
mhm,
shout out for that. And then the third thing, I really want you to talk a little bit more about pushing your representative. So what was different about the representative you initially pushed versus, you know what, I'm going to just show up as me on my dating profile.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. I think, with the representative, I think it's like when you're dating, and especially when you're younger too, you're trying not to be, um, I guess for me, I was trying not to be difficult, because I
Okay.
have you're trying to present this aura of ease. Like,
Okay.
you're
Mm-hmm.
very the negative things that people say about women, is she a nag? Is she a gold digger? Is she, and so your representative is like trying to combat all of the potential negative responses that you might get.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in addition to, of course, everyone wants to, look physically appealing when
Of
they get
course.
on, you've got your pictures, but, as far as the profile, which a lot of the guys please reading. So, but
Mm.
anyway, that's, but I was, not really sharing a lot. It was very superficial,
Okay.
what I was sharing, because it's like, focus on, this, and, here's a cute pic. Oh, here's a little shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and I like, this type of music, and I like these types of movies. And,
Gotcha.
and so when you're putting out kind of a superficial response, then you're going to get superficial results. And so there's like a happy medium between
Mm-hmm.
just, vomiting out everything about you in the
Right.
last however many decades, and then just being super, super
Mm-hmm.
superficial. So yeah.
Okay.
And so like I said, when I decided to go back, um, after that first relationship outside of my divorce, I just really reflected on what it was that I wanted. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, with this being, the new year season,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
one of the tools that I like to use is called the year compass, the year ahead, and it's a free tool, um, that allows you to reflect on the past year and then also to prepare for the next year. And part of the preparation for the next year is dreaming big and trying
Mhm.
to manifest what it is you really want. And so before I went into that process of building up a new profile, a profile that really showed who I was,
Mhm.
I went through that year compass, and at the very end of it, it asks you for a secret wish. And my secret wish was to have a man who, in fact, I probably have it here actually, because I keep it in my planner because I'm really big on planners. So I got my little planner here.
Love it.
Uh, and so I keep all of the old year compasses
Mhm.
in my little planner. And so it's here, and it says, "My secret wish is to meet a man who sees and accepts me, one who wants to partner with me and build a fulfilling life, one that I'm not settling for, one who fits all of the characteristics that I really want."
Okay.
And so that was, in my little planner right here, right?
Okay.
And so then a few months after that is online when I met my now husband. And I jokingly tell him all the time that I manifested you,
Absolutely.
manifested you.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of manifestation. So, and I'll also, if that company is still around, I'll definitely put a link
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
description box. Perfect. So anyone who listens and they're interested in, purchasing and everything, they can, you know, do their own
It,
manifestation of their
it's
ideal
totally
person.
free and I highly recommend it. So
Even better. We love free.
yeah.
Uh, so what were some of like the key like qualities or interests, especially I'm curious that you highlighted when you said I'm just going to be authentically me, no representative, not leaning as heavily, because we're always going to have some part of our representative, but not leaning as
Right.
heavily into it versus I'm gonna just be me.
hmm Yeah, I think one of the things that I focused on for me was, because I'm in my 40s and I wasn't looking for someone to complete me. Like I'm already a whole
Mm-hmm.
being. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need anybody to
Mm-hmm.
complete me. I'm looking for a partner. And so it was really important to me to partner with someone who also had a life of their own. And so
Okay.
they weren't looking for
Mm-hmm.
me to be their form of entertainment. They weren't looking for someone to complete them. They were already complete as well. And so in my profile, I talked about, that very thing. And also, with my son is 14. I was not looking for someone to be his dad,
Mm-hmm.
although that has developed on its own.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
But that's not, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't looking for that because we were fine. Like I had a plan. Cats were involved. It was gonna be me and my baby and my cats.
Right, right.
Um, but so I was very clear about wanting to be with someone who had their own things going on and how we could complement each other, but still not lose who we were within the relationship.
Oh, I love that. I think that's a huge thing that, in the online sphere and social media, you see some of the challenges with women who are dating, who are grown, 35 plus. We will meet someone, but they want to make you their whole world and not in a healthy way, or and it's not out of
Mhm.
love, it's out of boredom and a desire for the woman
Mhm.
to be the entertainment. So to highlight that, I really appreciate that because to me that's going to send the people who automatically do that, that's going to send them scurrying away. When you're like, look, I have my own things going on, I have my own hobbies, I have a child, I'm not seeking someone to step in and be the other parent. We're good over here.
Mhm.
I'm looking for a partner, and that I'm taking notes here. I'm taking mental notes. I love that because I've definitely run across that myself. And you're like, why don't you have your own interests and hobbies? And
Mhm.
so awesome. Okay, let's see. So, how did you approach setting boundaries with it, like in the early stages of your relationship? Like, you kind of vibed, like, walk us through kind of how you guys
Yeah.
initially met, vibed, and like you went about the setting of the boundaries.
Well, I think one of the things that helped with that, of course, was having already been married and having seen what life is like when you don't have boundaries. boundaries.
Oh, okay.
And so, having lived through not having boundaries, and then again going through therapy and reflecting on how not having boundaries gave, a bad result, part of the reasons,
Mhm.
um, I was very aware of myself and understanding the things that I wanted. Also before we moved over to Brunei, I was a high school principal. And
Mhm.
so when you're working a very high stress job in order to not keel over from a stroke, you've got to have good
Yes.
boundaries because, education, will take and take and take and take and take.
Mhm.
And so setting those boundaries was really just about having conversations. And, I must say too, full disclosure, I really looked out. My husband's a therapist. So my and so my husband, is very communicative.
Mhm.
He is very, open um to all of those things that are going to come together to make our relationship work for the both of us.
That I would think that could be a double-edged sword because there's just like doctors make the worst patients. I could see someone being with someone like, yeah, my spouse is a therapist, but they don't live. Like they know the things, but they don't do the things.
Mhm.
Teachers are the worst students, you know what I mean? So I'm really
Uh-huh.
excited to see he understands it, but he actually walks in it as well. He's not like, oh, that's just
Yeah.
for my patients. It's not for me, personally. So
No,
okay.
he's very, very good at walking his talk with me, and our son. I mean, he's amazing in that regard. So,
Okay. So can you share an example of, especially in the early stages when you were dating, sounds like things were going well, and you had to really reinforce your boundaries or have a discussion again about an established
mhm.
boundary? Mhm.
Yeah, I think the closest, let me think. In the beginning, once we moved in together, because that's always the test, right? Everything is great when you've got your own space. And
Mhm.
then when you move in together, you have to learn how to work around another adult. And so I think, I think he had to get used to to me because he was very simple in terms of I don't know, I guess technology. Like I'm a gadget person.
Mhm. Mhm.
So um, I already had a house. He moved in with me, and my house was Alexa'd out.
Ah.
Okay. Like everything was my washing machine's connected to Alexa, the thermostat, it's Alexa, bedroom lights off, like it's the
Oh my
whole
gosh.
whole thing. And so he had to adjust to that because he was very much like, who's listening to us? Like,
That's
who's I was like,
that's me. That's how I would feel. Or just I've watched too many horror movies, so I'm like, I don't want the house to like take over and trap me inside. So yeah. But for the people who are gadgets and like the tech, totally appreciate it because it
yeah,
does make life easier. It does. I've
yeah.
experienced that. Mm.
Yeah, and so that's kind of where we ended up with him having to become more comfortable
Mhm.
with that, and with me getting more comfortable with meshing our styles because he's a
Okay.
person who has a lot of things that are meaningful to him,
Mhm.
um, but there's of stuff, and I'm more of a minimalist type
Mhm.
person, and so we had to negotiate how things were going to be in the house. Like, for example, when he first moved in, we were sharing an office. And we
Okay.
and so like my side of the office would be one way, and then his would be another way. And so we
Mhm.
so we ended up separating, which actually worked out, better.
Mhm.
When he started seeing clients from home, he needed that privacy and all of that
Right.
stuff. But we had to negotiate the space in that way.
Yeah,
And it was
negotiating
just a simple
space.
conversation.
That is that is a big one. I think what you said with couples who decide to cohabitate, with couples who are living together for the first time when they get married. One person, especially like it was you and your son in your house, it's Alexed out. You all have your flow of how things work.
Mhm.
Um, did your son ever have any concerns, because I think that's a very valid point. You have
Mhm.
he even if a small child, but you have a son of some size, and he knows this new person's coming into the space with my mom and I. Like, what did he give you
Mhm.
any feedback about, how he moved in?
Well, before we ever got to that point, of course, they had interacted,
Mm-hmm.
numerous times, and we gone places and done different things, and I had lots of conversations with my son because
Gotcha.
with him being an only child,
Mm-hmm.
he talk, and
Mm-hmm.
so um he let me know how he felt about it, and he felt good about him. Their
Okay.
interactions were good together, and so I didn't have any concerns about that. um my husband's always been really good at communicating with my son as well. In fact, before he proposed to me, he talked to my son about it and showed him the ring and all of
Okay.
that, had that conversation. So my son knew that he
Mm-hmm.
was going to propose before I knew, and all of that. So,
That's awesome. I love to hear that when adults are adulting in terms of communication, and they are recognizing that this child is going to be impacted, and I want to ensure that I'm communicating with them the things going on, whether it's moving in together, when proposing to, his mom. Like, I really respect that.
mhm.
That's awesome. Um, oh, just so the listeners know, what is the thing that I didn't know the first time I talked to you until you told me one of your husband's hobbies? I was like, and your husband is not African American,
My
correct?
husband, yes, my husband is white. Yeah, we were talking, and I mentioned, back to the thing about having your own interest. Part of the thing that made me pick his profile was he was talking about wanting to hike the Appalachian
Mm-hmm.
Trail, which is like a months
Mm-hmm.
long endeavor, and how he's photography is one of his major hobbies. He sells his stuff. He's really good with nature photography, and so he goes on trips like for a month at a time. He
Mm-hmm.
went to Europe last year. He's going to Scotland in a few months.
Nice.
And so he's got, all of
Mm-hmm.
that going on. So when I saw that, I was like, yes, that's right
Yes.
there. Somebody who's got his own stuff going on, who, go and do stuff and then come back and
Yes.
go and
Yes.
come
Yes.
back.
Okay. It that is interesting. So we'll definitely get into like the layers of possible complexity, especially in today's environment with interracial dating as well. I've dated interracially myself and had positive experience, but the living apart together thing, that or his hobbies that can take him away a month at a time. Recently, an article came out with Shirley Ralph and her husband have been married almost 20 years, and they have been
Mhm,
commuting coast to coast because he's a member of the PA Senate, and she is in Hollywood being an actress, and they're going to move in together for the first time really soon.
mhm,
And to me, like, that's my ideal marriage because I'm an omnivert. Like, I like to be out and about, but
mhm.
when I need to recharge, I like my solitude. So, but I know a
Right.
lot of people would freak out about that. So having that be a plus when you saw on his profile that he wants to do these things or does these things and he's gone for long stretches of time, how did that make you feel? Because I know a lot of women will be like, wait, he's not going to be home. I'm concerned about whatever it may be. Like, why was that appealing to you?
I think that was appealing to me for the same reasons that I've got my own stuff going on,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time, like I said, I was a high school principal. I had a superintendent. I have a superintendent certification. I was at the time considering starting
Mm-hmm.
to, move up
Mm-hmm.
um, in hierarchy, raising my son, going to all the events, going to
Yeah.
board meetings.
Yep.
I just wanted to be with someone who wasn't at home waiting for me because they had their own stuff
Yeah.
going on, you know. And so it was a plus for me just because I needed that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, when you do have your own stuff going on, it makes the relationship richer because you can bring those outside experiences together and share and grow from the separate experiences that you've had.
See, that's grown woman talk. You talking about I'm secure in myself. I want a person who's secure in themselves and their hobbies. And I can appreciate the time that we spend apart because when we come together, it's just going to be that much richer. So love the emotional
Yeah.
maturity in that. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing too, it is being it's almost like a release of control, like looking at your circle of influence.
Mhm.
And for people who are concerned about, letting their spouse out of their sight, what are they going to do when there's like an underlying thing that you
Yep.
need to work on there. Maybe it's something in your gut that you're not
Mhm.
really
Yep.
paying heed to, that's letting you know that that should be a concern. But regardless, can't control what he does,
Yeah.
and so I am not going to, um, I guess that's just how I am in general. Like, I only worry about the things that I can control. And I can't remember, there's some quote about, worrying and money, or you're worrying about a debt that's never, I don't know. But that's just how I live my life. I just don't worry
Mhm.
about things that I can't control.
That's
Even in the
awesome.
class, in the school setting, I would have teachers who were upset about things that they couldn't control. This kid did this kid did that.
Mhm.
And minor things like, this kid is chewing gum all the time and I don't like it. And like, this is really what we want to be focusing on right now. Like, I used to tell
Understood.
my teachers all the time, like, is anyone bleeding? Is anyone dying or in
Correct.
imminent, danger of death? If not, we will figure it
We
out.
can we can work in the other areas, right? Um, God bless you, because I don't deal with little people in my, trained profession, and I commend anyone who does, because, and I say little people, anyone under 18, at all
Hmm.
stages, they're growing, they're going through a metamorphosis,
Hmm.
and they're different people, and
Hmm.
I I used to feel bad for my teachers when I was in high school, and this was way before things got as crazy as they are today in school. I'm like,
Hmm.
I couldn't. All these people going through the change, like the first change of life to become from children to adults, and
Yeah.
they have different stresses on them, different desires, etc. I don't pity teachers.
And then
I
they
like.
got
I mean,
different
I do pity
hormones.
teachers because that's just no.
Yeah. They got hormones. They haven't gotten their deodorant right sometimes. Like, there's all kinds of,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. They haven't gotten the hygiene down pat
uh,
quite yet.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. I
Yeah.
remember those times. So, what were some of the challenges? And you were from Texas, is right? That's where you
Mhm.
all lived and
Yeah,
dated.
we met in
Okay.
Texas. Yeah.
So tell me about the challenges of that. So you're Black in an interracial relationship with a white man and in Texas. And we all know Texas is its own unique thing with everything going on. So
Hmm.
how was that for you?
It's Texas is, there are pockets
Mhm.
in Texas that
Mhm.
feel like place removed from time,
I
that's
can
just
believe
like
that.
back in the 50s, or,
Mhm.
something like that. But we were in the DFW area,
Okay.
and interracial dating was, pretty prevalent, but usually,
Opposite.
men dating, uh-huh, uh-huh.
Mhm.
And so, but I began seeing in the last couple of years when I was there more Black women who were dating outside
Mhm.
of their race. So occasionally we would get looks, um, but nothing,
Nothing untoward had
just
happened. Mhm.
right, right, right. And he would notice it, more than I would, because
He
I
was
just,
aware. Okay. That's awesome.
he's very aware. And so, I would be like, okay, yeah, whatever. Um, so it was not really a big thing.
Mhm.
And then I think for me, like, I'm always, when people who know me, or people talk to me, they're like, I always expect Javonna to be doing something that is
Mhm.
different.
Okay.
Javonna is jumping out of a plane. Javonna is doing this. Javonna is, so okay, it's Javonna, you know.
That- okay. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, you were always like, I'm gonna go to the beat of my own drum and what's good for me.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So vacationing together. So I remember when we chatted before, you kind of talked about you go on vacation together before you moved in together. So how, to me, that's like the initial peak at what someone may be like when you move in together.
Hmm.
So tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So we met in March of 2021.
Okay.
And so, my husband's like a big redhead. And so I jokingly said to him, I said, we're like the Walmart brand, Harry and Meghan. Um,
Okay.
and so Harry and Meghan, early on, before they got serious, they took a trip together. It was a camping trip. And they spent like the weekend together and they talked and they got to know each other. And that's when they knew
Mhm.
that, they wanted to be together. And so I was like, oh, we're going to be like Walmart brand Harry and Meghan, and we're going to go on a camping trip and see if we're really compatible. And like I was opening myself up in this relationship to be more,
Mhm.
into that kind of, being romantic in that way and putting my wishes out there.
Okay.
And
I love
and
it.
so he said, okay, I like the idea. I'm all about camping, but
God bless.
he's like, I wanted to go to this place in Mexico for a while. What do you
Okay.
think about going to Mexico? And I was like, sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
My mom and dad, even at my big age, she's like, who is this man?
Exactly.
You are not leaving the country until we meet this man.
Correct. You going on with
And
this
so,
palm colored person to a foreign country to camp, girl? Is you crazy? I know, because that was the thought when we first started going through my head. But
mhm. Yeah. So, yeah, my mom and dad, they were like, yeah, come on over for dinner. Let us
mhm.
meet, all of that stuff. And my mom is real good about thinly veiled threats about her children. So
I love it.
she
Yes.
gave them some very thinly veiled threats. She might have been holding a machete. I don't know. I don't remember. Um,
Mama's a G. I love it. I love it. Okay.
um, but we ended up going to Mexico together for 7 days.
Ooh,
And
okay.
like when we got there, I don't know if we really thought about the length of time when we booked the trip.
Mm-hmm.
7 days is a while. And we met in March and then we went on the trip in June. So this is
Okay.
just a few months
It's
after we
just a few
met.
months in, 3 months. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so we got there and we were like, well,
We're here.
I guess we'll know by the end if we really like each other or not.
I think that's fair. I think 3 months is, like you said, at our big ages, we have enough. If we've done the self work, we have enough insight about ourselves to know. Okay, 3 months. I've discussed some of the major things. I see the way he moves. I like our vibe. My family knows where I'm going. They've met
Mhm,
him. They can identify him in a lineup if necessary,
mhm, mhm,
and
mhm.
we can assess and have actual discussions while we're gone. Like that's what it sounds like to me. So, what actually happened on this 7 day trip?
I mean, it was one of the easiest,
Oh,
best trips I've had, and, again, my husband is, he camps, he goes hiking, he does all this stuff.
girl, all
And
that
so,
stuff that let me be inside. Let me be inside. But I respect the people who like being outside. I respect it.
let me tell you, when I go on vacation, I'm on vacation. Like I'm
Correct.
at a resort. I am on the beach with someone bringing
Serving me
me
fruity
drink.
drinks. I told
And
someone that they were like, "You're bougie." I was like, "And your point is what?"
yeah,
That's a
so
vacation.
that's vacation. And so he booked an Airbnb.
Okay.
And it was my first time going to an Airbnb. And
Oh,
so
okay.
I was like, is there room? No room service?
Can we
Who's
call
gonna bring
people?
me my drinks on the beach?
Correct. Fair question.
So we went and it was a great time. We had a little studio that had an outdoor kitchen and he would get up and cook breakfast in the morning. And um, the beach was walkable 5 minutes away. So we were on the beach every day and able to get drinks on the beach from vendors.
Mm-hmm.
We rode horses on the beach. We had lots of conversations
Nice.
and we just really vibed and connected. And, by the end of the trip, in my mind, I said to myself, I
Mhm.
said, this is now my man.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm stage 2 of manifestation.
Manifestation, claiming it. Okay.
I
Okay.
was like, okay, this is my man now. And by November, he will be living with me and he'll
Okay.
figure it out whenever he figures it out. I'm not saying anything to him about it, but this is what's
Did you all have
happening.
a formal conversation about being in a monogamous relationship at that point, or did that come
Mhm.
later on?
Yeah,
Okay, you had it at that
yeah,
point.
we did. We did. We had a conversation, and I told him, I said, that, and I was being clear with what I wanted.
Mhm.
And so I told him, 'cause I, was still dating around in the beginning,
Right,
I didn't know if,
right. Hmm.
and so, but then when I got to the point where I knew I wanted to try this and just try with him, I said to him, I don't want to see anyone else.
Okay.
And he said, I don't want to see anyone else either. And that was that.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. 'Cause I have observed in my own dating history and some ladies I've worked with, it's like that the lack of having that clear cut conversation where you're both saying, yeah, it's just us. We're going to see how we
Hmm.
do. It has led to a lot of confusion at times. Now, of course, as we get older, we get wiser, but yeah, the making the assumption that just because he's doing committed boyfriend things doesn't mean he's a committed boyfriend unless you two have had
Nope. Say
that
the
discussion.
words.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Words mean words
Yes.
matter. Words are important. Okay.
Yes. Or, that Maya Angelou quote, ask for what you want and be prepared to get it. That's one of the quotes that I live by. Ask for
Ooh.
what you want and be prepared to get it.
So my favorite Maya Angelou quote is what is it? When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. That's my favorite
Hmm.
because I'm like, oh, that applies to like so many folk. I mean, work, personal. So that, but you're right.
Absolutely.
She's a very wise woman. She had so much wisdom, and pretty much everything she said is something we could live by and learn from.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
All right. Okay, this is a fun one. What were your feelings, initial feelings, when it was time to meet the family as we're progressing through?
Yeah. So it's funny. I and I think we talked about this before. In addition to my favorite Maya Angelou quote, my other philosophy in life is
I said this to somebody
you
and they
know,
fell out. Yes, this is, ladies, take notes on this because this is real. This is real.
so I live my life with the confidence of a mediocre white man. That is
Preach.
how I live. And so I'm never concerned about whether or not someone is going to like me, whether I can do something. I see something that looks interesting. I'm like, oh, yeah, I can do that. I'll figure it out. I'll make it happen. Um, and so he was concerned because his family is from, little small town in Texas.
Mm,
He's got cousins and whoever else who might say something sideways, he
yeah.
thought. So he was like, when we get down there, my mom is going to be great. But if I ask you to step outside because I need to get someone together, then please step outside and let me get that person together if somebody says something that's disrespectful. And I was like, nobody's going to say anything. Like, they're going to love me.
I definitely want to point that out. And I think every woman should pay attention to that, but especially when you are in a dynamic with more complexity, such as an interracial relationship, especially in our current socio-political climate, that
Hmm.
he already knew that defending you and protecting you what may be an issue, and he didn't wait for you to have to broach it. Like, he knew his job as the man in the relationship was like, hey, if I got to crack somebody's head, I might have to crack that. Can you please step out? So that says a lot to me about how he already regarded you. Like, we
Hmm.
together, you know what I mean? And you're not gonna disrespect her because that's disrespecting me, and I'm not gonna have that. So kudos
Yeah.
to him for that.
Yeah, he's always, yeah, he's got my back. In fact, it's one of the things that um made me, really fall in love with him is, being with someone who sees me for who I am and accepts me for who I am, and someone who I don't have to ask, does this person have my back? Like, if something is going to happen,
Mhm.
or even if something is not, just checking on me, just talking to me about my day. Like, he intuitively knows when I'm upset or
Mhm.
off. As women sometimes, and especially as, you know, high achieving women who are used to just pushing through
Mhm.
things,
Mhm.
even when things are tough.
Mhm.
Sometimes you just put your head down and you don't feel great, but you're going to keep
Yep.
on. I can't do that with him because he knows.
He's
And he's like,
mhm.
come, talk to me. And I'm like, oh, I can't. This is what I asked for, though. I asked for somebody who sees me. So
And he's like,
I
I'm
got what I
here. I
asked
see
for.
you. That is excellent that he seems very tuned in. Now,
Mhm.
how did it feel knowing, okay, he's not just tuned in, he's also formally trained. He's a therapist. Like, did you ever feel like about sharing things with him? Because I know sometimes you can, like, if I was dating a doctor, I'd be like, especially a certain type of doctor, I'm like, I don't need you asking me about, you know what I mean, that you didn't studied and like that may seem a little
Mhm.
odd, not bad, but a little odd at first. So how did
Mhm.
that feel?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, he's really good at not trying to head shrink me.
Mm.
Um, he's really good at just having a conversation, or if something does pop up to him, he'll ask permission to talk about what he's hearing from me. And he'll ask if I want that or not.
I
So
like
he
that.
doesn't
I like
just,
that.
go in,
Right. Because
like
that's what I'm thinking. Like, and I've heard more men say that would have an apprehension about dating a licensed mental health professional. I don't want her, running around in my head. I'm like, it doesn't work like that. But I think
Mhm.
I understand what your concern is. You don't want them to default go into therapist or counselor mode with you when you're just trying
Right,
to vent about a rough day. So
right.
okay. Oh, let's see, fun stuff. So sharing space we kind of touched upon. Okay, moving in together. You've manifested it, met the family, nobody needed to be, body slammed, everything is good. November rolls around and it's moving time. Seems like it's going good at first. What was like the first like major like point of like we need to talk about this. This is rough, or did anything like that even happen?
I was gonna say, I don't nothing like that really ever happened.
Okay.
Um, we were always, I guess, just kind of tuned in to what the other person needed. I have had 2 cats. He had a dog, so the dog came.
Okay.
And
Small
so
dog,
that
big dog.
was big dog.
Okay. Okay.
Big dog. And sweet, sweet dog. He had her for 12 years.
Oh,
So that
okay.
was like it was
That's his
his baby.
baby. Yeah, that's his baby.
Yeah. And so, it was an adjustment living with a dog. Because I'm a cat person.
And we're not
And
talking
so
about no Bajon. We talking
no
about
little,
yeah,
yeah, we're
yeah.
talking about, yeah. And so it was an adjustment with having her in the house.
Mm-hmm.
But he was really good about figuring out a way to like um not make her presence like disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so was I, like I, bought her, a bed, more than one bed. She had a bed. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't go with my decor, so I bought a new one that did. And so
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
got her a new bed and toys
Mm-hmm.
and it worked out because she was a sweet dog. Like she wasn't a dog that's like eating your shoes
Right,
or
right.
doing anything like that. Like she was a really sweet dog. We
How,
had to leave our pets when we came
I was
here,
about to
and that
say,
was
how did the
mhm.
cats get? Because cats are territorial, and I know sometimes they're like, who is? They sometimes, they don't like new
Well,
grown people, much less another animal sometimes. So how did the cats
yeah,
adjust?
they did what cats do, which
Mm-hmm.
is stayed
Terrorize.
away. They left him alone.
Oh, they left
Like, they didn't
them alone.
terrorize him.
Oh,
Yeah, they didn't wanna, like, interact with her, but they didn't terrorize her, so
that's good.
that was good,
That's good.
and, I had to get rid of one before we left. I rehomed her with a friend, and so the one that was left started befriending
Got
the
you.
dog,
Okay.
and so he would lay in bed with her, and the dog was kinda like, "What
Like
is
you ain't been
happening?"
coming around. What are you doing?
Yeah, like, I don't really want you in my bed. We're not friends like that, but, um,
Hmm. Okay. So you said he had children as well.
His were adult children.
Oh, okay. So his children were adults. Okay. So it wasn't, I was gonna say,
Mhm.
how did that go when you did meet his children? Even though they're adults, you're still like, I do want to have a positive, rapport with them. How was that?
Mhm. That was fine. His oldest lives several hours away, so I met him at, family holidays, stuff like that. And his
Mhm.
younger son just got out of the Air Force
Oh,
and was
okay.
going back to college, and so he actually lived with us for about a month when he got out of the force before he got his stuff and enrolled in college. And so yeah, he's great. Like he was he and his dad would go to the gym almost every day because they're big on, working out. And
Bonding,
that was
male
when,
bonding.
uh-huh,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. He and I, we had an HBO show. We sit on the couch and binge watch
Oh, I love
TV.
that. Okay. Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
good rapport with the kids.
Mhm.
Um, all right, now we're moving through the timeline. What when did the proposal happen?
The proposal happened November of last year,
Okay.
22.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
about a
we moved
year
in
from
about it,
moving in together.
from when he
Okay.
moved in. Yeah, yeah. He was finishing up some schooling and was having a dinner to celebrate,
Mhm.
and he proposed at the dinner. Like, I was not expecting it at
That
all.
is so nice.
We were all sitting there, and he went around the table like towards the end of the night and like thanked everyone who had supported him throughout his educational journey. And I'm just sitting there clapping,
Right. Yeah.
smiling, and supporting my man.
Of course. Of course.
And then he gets to me,
Hmm.
and then he gets down and proposes.
You
Like,
like,
he just
what are you doing?
was
I love that. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I was completely caught off guard.
Hmm.
So yeah, I was, yeah, completely shocked and happy.
Right. That is so sweet that he made a day that was for him and you were like, I'm here to support you. And he used it to pivot and say, hey, this is what up. Because we
Hmm.
already got everybody here. So this is a great time to do
Hmm.
it. Good timing. I
Hmm.
really
Yeah,
appreciate this timing.
yeah. And I just thought about something too. Like, we at the beginning of last year, at some point, I had said to him, because we had talked about marriage on and
Mhm,
off, but never in any concrete kind of way. And I told him that I did want at some point
mhm.
to get married. And he was like, I'm so glad that you said that because I did not think that you did.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, since I'd been married before, he had never been married before, and he, wasn't sure if I wanted to go
Right.
down that road again. And so again, ask for what you want, be
Hmm.
clear, because if I had not said anything, we would have been just going on
Just
down the
going
line,
along.
just
Hmm.
And so I was like, yeah, I want to let you know that I do want to get married. I don't have like a date in mind, or I
Right.
don't, right now, but that is something I want to do. And he's like, thank you for telling me that. Now I know. And then
Okay.
in November, he proposed.
I love that. So how long between the conversation you guys had about that and him actually doing it?
I think we had that conversation in like February of last year.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
February. And then in
So
November, he
9 months.
proposed.
Okay. Okay. Now, what's the age gap between you two? And is who's older and who's younger?
He's older. He is 7 years older than
7 years.
I
Okay. And from your experience, do you, if you've ever dated younger, can you tell the difference with dating someone who's seven? Because 7 years can sound like a big thing when you're like 20, but when you get to
am.
our more seasoned ages, it's
Yes.
not a big, it's not a big thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think the man that I dated right before him, the one that I knew wasn't right for me,
mhm.
I want to say was 1 or 2 years younger than me,
Okay.
which was like dog years. It felt like dog years.
Okay. She said what she said. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, for some people,
Understood.
I'm sure that works, but um, And that was the only time I had dated someone who was even a little bit younger than me.
Right. Understood.
So yeah, but with him being 7 years, there's not really that. It's not a
Gotcha.
thing, not an issue.
All right. So, okay, getting married and
Mhm.
then pivoting and relocating halfway across the world. Can you give us some insight on that? Some challenges you all may have faced, and rehoming your pets.
Mhm.
To me, that would be a big challenge. I don't even have pets, but in college I had a cat, and the cat has since passed. But that was hard. Like, so I can
Mhm.
imagine you having two cats and have him having a dog, and you all having to like rehome your animals because you can't take it to the country that you're going. So, what were some of the
I mean, you
challenges?
can, but it's going to be expensive.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
it was a whole, like 10 grand
Oh
and
no, no
quarantine.
ma'am, no ma'am,
Yeah,
no ma'am.
yeah, yeah. So going back to moving abroad, I grew up, my father was in the army. And so we moved a lot. I, lived in Germany as a child and went to school there for a bit. And I always knew I wanted to move abroad. And so even when I was teaching in the classroom, there was a point um, after my divorce when I was looking at, okay, my son and I can go abroad and I can teach abroad and he can see the world. And so I was actively kind of looking at that. And
Mhm,
I was teaching English online to kids in China. And then I started teaching online to adults around the world because that was more my speed, teaching adults, not little
mhm,
kids. Um, and so I got my first admin job. And so I got, and
uh-huh,
so they trap you with money. And
mhm,
so I, became an assistant principal and a principal, but the idea of moving abroad never left. It was always on my mind, but I was 10 years away from retirement. My son was going to be entering high school soon. And I thought what everybody thinks, like, I'll wait until I retire. I'll
right.
wait until my kid graduates from high school. Wait to
Mhm,
start living.
mhm,
Um, and so when I met my husband, we talked about that as well because he travels and he was on board with the retirement or the high school,
right.
waiting to move abroad. But the way things were in education, things were hard.
Mhm,
And I found myself asking, why should I wait? And
mhm,
he asked me, he was like, what are we waiting for? Like you could get a job anywhere
right.
overseas and I work remotely, so wherever you go, I'm going.
Okay, okay.
So what are we waiting on? And I was like, really? And he's like, and so I started looking and here I am. I mean, really, it was really that simple. Like we just made a decision that we were going to go ahead and do it. And so then I started applying and interviewing, found a spot.
Mhm,
Um, and then we started the process. I sold my house, sold everything in it. We, rehomed. Luckily, he has a friend who was able to take his dog in. So when he visits the States, he can go see her, although she's not really trying to mess with him like that anymore. She's got a new
understood. She
friend.
feels abandoned. Mhm, mhm.
He was a little salty about that when he went to see her
You're
sister.
like, what did you expect? I mean, yeah, animals are very intelligent. Makes sense.
Um, So yeah, we made the decision, and that's kind of how I am. Like when I make a decision, then confidence of a mediocre white man. I'm moving
Okay.
abroad. Let's
You're like, I can do it. I'm just
go.
gonna click some buttons, apply. I'm gonna get it because I'm me. You're right.
Yeah,
If more Black women move through life with that level of confidence, with the skill that we've acquired because we've been told we
right.
have to work harder,
Yes.
we'd be running the show. That's yes, we would. Um, so what's your sign and what's his sign? I love astrology, so I gotta ask the corny question.
Okay, so I will tell you, but then I have a caveat from something that I learned recently.
Okay.
Um, so I'm a Libra
Okay.
and he is a Leo.
Okay.
But when I was in high school, I took astronomy. And so I don't really remember everything, but I do remember hearing at some point that the alignment is not what we think it is.
I've
And
heard
so
that.
I was on Instagram the other day, and NPR has an astrophysicist who writes for them or whatever, and she explained how the world, how things rotate, and how the way that we're looking at the stars now is not the way they were looked at
Mhm.
whenever that was made. And so
Correct.
actually, your sign is the one before. So
Oh,
actually, I'm a Virgo and he's a Cancer.
okay. 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 The sign is, I gotta ponder that. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I
I
gotta
know.
ponder
I told my sister I sent her the link and she said she threw her phone across the room.
that. She didn't like it. She didn't like it. No, she didn't like it. I I could see that for me, but I'm more likely to be the sign ahead than the sign behind. But I understand the sentiment. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
But I've lived as a Libra. He's lived as a Leo.
correct.
He wasn't really trying to hear that either. He's like, I'm a Leo. I'm like, okay.
Basically, like cut all that noise. This is who I am, right? Do either of you like really exemplify the traits of your sign? My mom is a Libra, so I understand how Libras work. You're right. Y'all don't really get stressed about too much. You know how to lead, but you're pretty balanced for the most part. You got your moments, but for the most part, y'all are pretty balanced. Um,
Yeah. I'm a Libra for sure. And he is definitely a
she was
Virgo.
like, he is a Leo. He's a Leo.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And he has red hair. I love it. I love it. And he's red. Hair look like fire. I love it. It works. Um, so okay, we're winding down. So I'm just trying to be mindful of time. What are some things that you would express to any ladies out here who are in the same position you are? You know what I mean? I've been through maybe a long-term relationship and I've done worked on my healing, and now I'm ready to pursue and really be open to attracting, like that new love that's whatever I'm looking for. May it be marriage, may that just be long-term partnership. What everybody wants is different. But what are some pieces of advice that we could, give the ladies?
I think um, I would say my biggest thing is to make sure that you have some kind of mindfulness practice, whether that is journaling, whether that is meditation, yoga, breath work, whatever it is,
Mhm.
so that you can stay in touch with yourself. Um, because it's very easy, I think, for everyone, but especially for women, to get into a relationship and things start to move. And it's very easy for you to kind of backslide on either your boundaries or backslide on goals that you set for yourself. Um, and I think having that mindfulness practice and just touching base with yourself allows you to stay grounded in who you are
Mhm.
as you're partnering with someone instead of being consumed into it's always
Mhm.
we, but sometimes it's you and sometimes it's him, and that's okay. And you guys, will come together at some point. So I think that's the thing, is to maintain your sense of yourself, keep seeing your friends, keep doing your hobbies,
Mhm.
keep growing in the same way that you were growing.
Mhm.
Make room for that other person, but don't lose yourself. And just remember, don't forget
Love that.
don't forget who you are, Simba. Don't forget.
Absolutely. Don't lose yourself, which is so easy to do in a relationship, especially when you find that diamond in the rough and somebody who really you really click with. So
Yeah,
excellent
yeah.
advice. Okay. So this is you. I'm going to give you space to kind of tell the audience anything else you'd like to tell them before we wrap up our interview. Anything that you're selling, anything going on, and I will include the links that you sent me as well. So feel free to expand on those.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, the thing that I focus on helping overwhelmed and overcommitted women learn to confidently
Mm-hmm.
say no to what they don't want, say yes to what they do, so that they can do less and live more. I'm all about shedding. There's a bird. I'm in the jungle, so there's monkeys and lizards, and there's all kinds of stuff out there.
I love that.
Um,
No worries.
if
It's
you
okay.
follow me on Instagram at Javonna MaeRhys, you'll see videos of the various monkeys that visit our property and how I have to keep my husband from trying to befriend them. Anyway, um, it's a whole thing.
Fair enough.
But I help people to kind of shed the commitments
Mm-hmm.
that they've taken on themselves that nobody asked them to do. It's like
Oh.
a lot of the anxiety that we feel as women, a lot of the burnout, we did that to ourselves. Like, you are doing things that nobody asked you to do. You're telling yourself a story, that you have to do these
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
But I help people to kind of shed that so that
Right.
they can be happy, live a life of joy. And if that sounds good to your subscribers, I have an ebook, a free ebook called The Art of Simplifying Your Life.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be linked in the description.
Yep.
And it is just a free guide to help you reconnect with your values, to work on setting some boundaries around some things that you choose, and to come up with some coping strategies for some areas that are giving you trouble at the moment. So I would invite everybody to start there with that,
Mm-hmm.
because it's free, and it's really good for this time of year because it
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of reflection exercises.
Yep.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you can use this new year to, get started on the right foot, reconnect with who you are. Let's put some boundaries in place, and let's
Mm.
get some strategies for those tough moments, because life is going to keep life in. And
Ooh,
so,
yes.
let's have some strategies in place when those things happen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Javonna. I appreciate your time today. As I said, I'll leave all the links below in the description box. You can reach out to Javonna, follow her on her social media, and see what's going on and see about these monkeys in this jungle. I don't know about that girl, but I think that's really
Girl, they
it
are a
seems
menace.
I believe it because they're very intelligent animals. So, but thank you for being my first person that I get to interview for this series, and I look forward to chatting with you again. And we'll do another interview in the year, but we'll keep chatting anyway about our business stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
For sure.
well, thank you, and I will chat with you soon.